Thor Love and Thunder. Thor and Love and Thunder is the fourth instalment in the Thor franchise, having previously had the first film, which was released in 2011, Thor the Dark World in 2013, and Thor Ragnarok in 2017. And it's a different one this time because Thor Love and Thunder follows the aftermath of Thor's life after Avengers Endgame and his adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think with how Thor Ragnarok was last time, and also just the general title of Thor Love and Thunder, it just looked like it was just going to be another part 2, I guess, because it just seemed like loads of fun and there was just going to be a lot more of an entertainment factor about it rather than being some kind of serious, you know, fantasy drama. And the trailer to me looked like heaps of fun, and I do like the new direction that the Thor series is going in connection with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and, you know, exploring a lot more of Thor's life outside of him losing his family and friends, as we see throughout the course of the Thor series. And we've seen Thor transform a lot over the years on a physical level as well, of course, because of his short hair in Ragnarok, his weight gain in Avengers Endgame, and here he kind of goes back to where he was. But here it's phase 4 and it's almost like a new era as far as Thor is concerned. Set after Avengers Endgame, Thor Love and Thunder begins with the title character's journey to find that inner peace. However, this is short-lived as deadly villain Gore the God Butcher intends to extinct all gods. So Thor enlists the help of friends Valkyrie, Korg and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to combat Gore and his goal to wipe out all gods. So when you think about the story that way, it sounds very, very easy, very simple, that it is just, oh, another villain's come onto the scene, he's in trouble and they've got to fight against him. That's pretty much the story. I think that's one thing that this film lacked for me. It lacked any real kind of substance within the story. It had a lot of potential, just the emotional depth of the story lacked any real kind of connection and substance. It didn't have that emotional drive or consistency that we normally like to follow along with in a story, and that's what I think was a little bit of a letdown in terms of the narrative. And of course we know how good the production values are within the Thor franchise. I mean, Thor Ragnarok is just a beautifully shot film and it just matches perfectly with the tone of the story, and that's what I think this film lacked for me as well. Sometimes you want the visual tone to coexist with the nature of the story and the plot, and unfortunately it didn't have that. And I know a lot of people have criticised the inconsistencies of the visual tone of the film, although I did absolutely love the black and white sequence, by the way. But sometimes you've just got to make ends meet together, and it didn't quite do that for me in many ways. It's a bit like having a rock song where you don't understand what's being heard in the lyrics, where you've just got really loud music and you can't hear what's being sung. That's pretty much what this film was, as far as the narrative and the production and them coming together is concerned. And the film did have its humorous moments, as we have seen in previous Thor films, and of course it's part of the MCU in general. But there were times when it was just constant and it just felt quite juvenile at the best of times, really, where it just either wasn't needed or it was just a bit over the top. And sometimes you don't want that, you want some kind of little subtle little jokes rather than it just being an all-out comedy. But I think for me the pacing was a little bit of an issue in my opinion, because it was just a bit inconsistent quite often, and there were times when I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, you know, that's really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. But overall it just lacked something for me, that it just didn't end with the product that we were expecting it to be. And despite the Thor franchise being a little bit of a hit and miss, they have got the acting absolutely spot on, and here is no different really. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, I mean, I've always found him an absolutely fantastic match for Thor, because I think he just balances the characteristics of the character absolutely perfectly. He captures the very masculine features that the Thor character has, because, you know, he's muscly and he's powerful, he's a god, but also through humour and emotion, and that's what I think is really key to Chris Hemsworth's performance, and he absolutely nailed it again as Thor. And I just really like his approach to the character by giving us something that just because you're a physically masculine character doesn't mean you are emotionally, and you do have vulnerabilities, as we found out in Avengers Endgame, Thor Ragnarok, etc. So it was really great to see Hemsworth back as Thor, and what I do appreciate about him playing the character is just his enthusiasm and just how much he enjoys playing him, because I know he said on numerous occasions that he wants to keep on playing Thor. And I think from a fan perspective, that's what you want to see from an actor, where it's not just an actor being paid to do a job, but more importantly, one that they actually enjoy doing and that they feel is part of their legacy. And again, he was just absolutely brilliant as Thor, and I do want to see more and more of him. as the character, and I feel like we're not done with him just yet. Now, an actor who I was surprised that they cast in this film was Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. Christian Bale is probably one of the most experimental and transformative actors that we've probably ever seen in film, because he has gone to extreme lengths to give us so many different roles over the years. And here Bale goes from playing the most famous superhero in a DC film, and here Christian Bale returns to comic book adaptations, although being initially reluctant to do so, to one of the most unique yet terrifying villains in Marvel. And I think what I personally appreciated about Christian Bale's performance was that he was completely free to just create his own interpretation of the character, and I think just the way he portrayed the character was something that he just kind of felt he had total control of. And it was also really nice to see a comic book villain with very little CGI, but instead plastered with more makeup. I think it just created a bit more authenticity to the character and therefore Christian Bale's performance. And don't get me wrong, we have had a lot of CGI villains that have either been 100% or motion capture, but I think this time you just felt like he had more of an opportunity to get into the character, because you could see that he was in the makeup and the costume, and I think that's where he just got the best out of Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. And as lackluster as the story was, his performance was absolutely brilliant, and I thought he was just an absolutely fantastic villain for the film. And in Thor Love and Thunder we also saw the return of Natalie Portman as Dr. Jane Foster, who's my favourite actress, by the way, and it was great to see her back, as we haven't seen her since Thor the Dark World back in 2013, although she has been mentioned and briefly appeared after then. And personally I feel a little bit conflicted in terms of not so much her involvement in the film, but the ways in which Disney and Marvel promoted the character's involvement. What I mean by that is because we know from the trailer and we know from the promo artwork and everything like that, we see that she turns into the mighty Thor, when in my opinion that should have been a surprise as we're watching the film, not in a trailer. A bit like Emperor Palpatine's involvement in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. But needless to say, I enjoyed Natalie Portman's performance again in this film, and I think she just really captured that relationship with Thor and just the emotional drama that she kind of brought to it. Because when you watch the film, you'll understand that the character is going through something that many of us can relate to, but it's not part of the bigger picture of the story. But that within itself was very touching, and I did like Portman's return as Jane. And of course the trailers did include the return of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they appeared within the first 10-15 minutes of the film, where Thor is with them after Avengers Endgame. They go off, presumably to build up to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Thor has a new mission with Gore the God Butcher. I feel a little bit disappointed with it, because I just don't think it really gave us something fresh and new to build up to something that we're going to see in the future. It felt a little bit flat at the best of times and a bit inconsistent. In fact, I'm feeling a little bit like that towards Phase 4 in general at the moment, although to be fair, Phase 1, 2 and 3 were slow burners as well, until there was that crucial turning point that transformed what's going to happen next and change the course of the whole series. And that's what we haven't had yet in Phase 4, and hopefully in other films in the future we'll finally get that. Thor Love and Thunder was entertaining, and I like the action sequences and some of the performances, but I think for me it just offered a lot and delivered little, and that's what I think was disappointing about it. And I think that's what the most disappointing films are, that you expect a lot from them, they have a lot of potential, but they just don't have the final finished product that you were expecting. Still, I'd like to see more Thor films, because I know how good they can be. So what did you think of Thor Love and Thunder? Did you enjoy it more than I did, or did you think the same? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you did want to enjoy this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more, and have a notification bell ticked so you're notified when I upload a new video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care everybody.